Hello Badgers, welcome to what is episode 14 of our podcast. So my name is Sam Cooper. For those who have joined us latterly, I'm an architect with the firm of Clayton de Vries and Pont, and you may know me as Links from the Road on Instagram, the guy who lived 2 years in a van playing all the links courses of Britain. Now, I will shortly be joined by James Bledge, who is the course manager of Royal Liverpool Golf Club, preparing for the Open Championship just a few months away. And in today's episode, we're going to be joined by Graeme Roberts and Greig Easton of Hayling Golf Club. So Hayling is a special place. I love it. I made a film of it a couple of years ago. It's a beautiful Tom Simpson links course on the south coast of England, just along from Portsmouth. We recorded this episode at BTME a couple of months ago in Harrogate, and there'll be a few moments where you can hear a drill going on in the background. So we were dodging between rooms and trying to find a place to record this without getting kicked out of the hotel. So hopefully you can bear with us through the background noise and you enjoy this conversation with Greig Easton and Graeme Roberts from Hayling Golf Club.
So joined back in the, which looks like a wedding suite, where we've actually sneaked into in the Majestic.
We might get kicked out.
We possibly could, so this could be a fast one, but we're joined by good friends, Graeme Roberts, Greig Easton from Hayling Island, or Hayling Golf Club.
One of my favourites.
Yep, beautiful golf course. Known these guys for years. Graeme used to come, I used to force myself upon your father down in a, well, not in that way.
He doesn't.
Yeah, down at Huntly Common, where he was course manager for years and done such an amazing job at one of the most beautiful golf courses on the land. Come from a rich greenkeeping stock with your brother. Is that
He's at Basingstoke Golf Club.
Basingstoke, yep. Scott, good guy. And Dad's still a greenkeeper up at Huntly.
Yep, he's course manager up at Hayling Golf Club, yep.
Still up there. So Graeme's helped me out for years down at Royal St Ports with final qualifying and stuff. And now Graeme was Greig's deputy. Greig, I took on as my deputy down at Deal when I first took over.
Yeah, huge risk.
Well, it was actually the person that probably kept me in a job for the first few years in my work in Mighty. An incredibly capable and solid deputy that was only ever destined for a job like Hayling, which I'm sure a lot of his members might be listening to this and they'll agree that he's done such an amazing job alongside Graeme. So, two very great friends of mine. So Graeme, you want to just quickly introduce talk about your greenkeep career?
Yeah, sure, yeah. So it probably started when, not long after I could walk.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid, Dad being deputy at the time under the late Ian McMillan. So every morning before school, I'd be out with him pulling the flags out while he cut greens.
Could you tell my Fletcher and Jesse that? Because
I can show him the way. And then the odd day though where my dad was spraying seaweed and I would go into school stinking of seaweed, which is a bit of a weird thing living inland. But our house was on the first tee, so life was on the golf course. Yeah, my days were always spent going out with my dad, helping him in the evenings and the weekends. I just loved it. The Hankley's a huge expanse of land, and it was just like this special place that we could live and call home. So I went to college, got academics as a sort of backup, although from when I was about 5-6 it was I'm going to be a greenkeeper. Simple as that. I had some people in the family sort of say, oh yeah, look at other things, and it was a case of I want to do what my dad does. I see how happy he is, the passion he has for doing it. I just want to do what he does. So I went to college. I was still working sort of seasonally and part-time for my dad at Hankley, and after college I thought, I'm still going to do it. So I took up an apprenticeship with him at Hankley. I absolutely loved it. So did my apprenticeship with my dad at Hankley Common, and then after that I was sort of looking for the next sort of step to take on after that. So I signed up on the Ohio program, which is a program through Ohio State University where they will put you on a placement for 12 to 18 months out in America. I was really fortunate to get placed at Pinehurst for the first 6 months under Kevin Robinson. At the time he was superintendent of courses 6 and 7. I believe now he is the golf maintenance manager at Pinehurst. I could be wrong, but he now oversees the entire resort on that part.
And they've got the 10 courses.
They're going to 10. It was 8 when I was there. where I'm sure they had the land for 9 and 10, and then when I went back out there to help out at the US Open, they had acquired, I think it was National, which was opposite course number 7, and then, like you said, they've now got 10 in the books as well now.
And space for 11 and 12 as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's an unbelievable place. I mean, it's just like, I remember my parents coming to visit me when I was out there, because the US Amateur was out there while I was helping, and they... Kevin was great. He set them up with a place at one of the hotels. Like, he sorted them out. He was amazing with them. And the only way they could describe it was kind of like a golf Stepford Wives sort of thing. You just went in there and everything was perfect from a golf point of view. The hotels, the houses around it, everything. And it was a great place to work. I learned a lot, and I've made a lot of good friends that I still keep in touch with now.
Brilliant. And
then after that, it was down to Harbour Town for 6 months, working for Gary Snyder and now the current superintendent, John Wright. Again, phenomenal experience down there. Great to be part of the, what at the time was the Verizon Heritage. I think it's now the RBC. So I did that, got a lot of experience with that, made a lot of good friends and connections through it, and came back to be first assistant at Hankley for a couple of years.
Did Dad ever tell you off?
Oh yeah, totally, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I remember one point him pulling me out to the 17th green to get me to rate the bunker again because it wasn't good enough, and that kind of has, well, the fact I'm telling you that now, I mean, just stuck with me. Well, yeah, I definitely made mistakes here and there.
That must be great, though, to have been able to work with your dad.
It was amazing. And
not many people can have that opportunity.
Yeah, I think and the best thing was as well, my brother joined us as well. So my brother is 3 years younger than me. And when he left school, he went to do golf studies because I'm the black sheep in the family in that I can't hit a golf ball properly. My dad's single figure. I think my brother's not far off that. And for me, it was always a case of I'd go and play golf, get frustrated with the fact that I can't hit anything. And so I go back out on the course and just work on it. But he did good golf studies. He realised, I think like a lot of people who love golf, that it was a very difficult industry to get into as a professional sort of thing. And he knew he loved doing greenkeeping, so he came into it as well. So there was a point where the three of us were working in the team, and it was great. And
that's special.
It was.
That's my. I mean, I see so much similarities because obviously they've been on site.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
Brothers, probably how many years between you and your brother?
3 years for us.
Same as Mike. And
yeah.
And it could go the same way. And it's your absolute dream as a father. I mean, Gareth is just the most amazing person. He's so relaxed.
Yeah.
Very knowledgeable.
Because Fletch and Jesse are always out there helping you.
Yes,
yeah.
Sometimes a hindrance.
Yeah, sometimes they just come and bring us a beer.
Yeah, that's the best thing about it. Is the phone call and Fletcher brings 4 beers and stuff like it.
But that was the thing, we had that. I mean, even as kids though, like I remember there was times when Dad would be out draining greens till dark and that, we'd go out and see him, so we'd go and jump in the cab at the track.
There's a great picture of you and your brothers in a car. Is that John? I know John.
Yeah, it's like a John. There's like a 2650 or something. Like there's the three of us crammed in, and I keep saying at one point we need to try and recreate that photo just for a laugh, because it will be a tight squeeze.
The big boys.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, and it was just great like that. But I mean, my mum's been amazing with that. I'm bringing her into it because of the fact that poor her. Every time we sit at the table, it is just relentless greenkeeping talk. The point where the joke used to be on Mother's Day and her birthday was, part of your birthday present, Mum, is we're not going to talk about greenkeeping for dinner. And it would probably last till about halfway through the starter. But so we were worked together for a couple of years. I then progressed up. I went to Tandridge Golf Club for 18 months as deputy. And then I was really fortunate that not long after that, I mean, that was a great club. That's where I met Frank Pont, a fantastic architect. And it was different because I'd been brought up in Heathland. I absolutely loved working on Heathland, and Tandridge was amazing, but at the same time it was a bit further away from the family. It wasn't Heathland, and I just kept finding myself looking to go back to that. And then one day I got a call from one of my old bosses now, Nick Parris, who's the course manager at Royal Wimbledon, looking for a deputy, and I just sort of bit his hand off with it. It was a chance to get back nearer the family. It was back on Heathland. Again, Frank was just about to start doing a lot of work there with them, with their cult restoration work. And so I joined them for 2.5 years, and that was a great experience. Went in there and straight away it was going back to the club had been owned by, I believe, a Japanese company, and changed a lot of the course to be very, in aspects of it, to be kind of that resort style. It had the concrete cart paths in places and has a pond in the middle of the 16th fairway, which isn't really kind of a...
Right.
I don't believe so, no. I don't think he found the koi for it, no. And so we went back into that, and that was amazing, getting to part of that. We actually brought George Waters in, who was going to be our shaper for the starting phases of the project. So that again was between him and Frank. It was just absorbing it all, because he would come in for a month, shape all the bunkers we were doing that year. And obviously he's got his own book now. He's got out, and I feel terrible, I can't remember the name of it. Based upon golf on sand-based or links courses and heathlands.
Yes.
And I know he was involved in doing the shaping for the Course 2 restorations with Core Crenshaw. So it was just a case of every minute that excavator wasn't running, it was just either bombarding him with questions or just sitting there listening to him. Sort of.
True badger, that's what it's all about, but isn't it? Like just insatiable curiosity. It's the name of the game.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit, yeah. So, yeah, did that, and then basically me and my wife, we got married whilst I was at Camberley Heath. During all this, I was doing volunteering as well, which I was, really fortunate to do. Numerous different events, including US Open, PGA Championships, Ryder Cup, Scottish Open. I was definitely, you could probably say, a tournament badger in that sort of sense. I think doing about 20 tournaments now in my career at the moment. And then
have you only got one left to tick off?
I've got one left to tick off. That's the Masters.
So anyone from Augusta that might miss this, everyone's applying year after year.
10 years I've been on the waiting list.
Very master of time.
Yeah, I can. If they can help me out with that, I can probably organise a game at Hayling for them.
Well, we got an Augusta that shut up.
Yeah, well, my dad's been there, so that was awesome. He went out to visit Augusta, and that was because he's an ultimate golf badger as well, like yourselves, for the game of golf. So for him to get out there and watch the Masters and that, I knew that was like a kid going to a candy store thing.
You will. It has to happen.
Hopefully, we're hoping. But yeah, so we actually took a year out when I finished up at Camberley Heath. Being brought up on the golf course all the time. My wife loves to travel. She's been incredibly great supporting me in my career. But a few things had sort of gone on, and we decided, you know what, we're going to take a break and travel. One of her friends had decided to go to Indonesia, and it was a case of sat in the pub one night. It was a case of, you know what, we're going to do it. We're going to go traveling. So I finished up with Nick, left on great terms. We still talk. He's offered me jobs in the past as well, and we decided to basically go backpacking for 6-7 months around Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand, and a little bit of America to see her family. I did get a chance to see a few golf courses while I was about. Through guys I've met while I was travelling and that. In New Zealand I went to Arrowtown Golf Club, went for a walk around there. Absolutely stunning piece of land. And then I sort of planned on seeing a lot more golf courses, but I actually found myself getting really encompassed with just the whole backpacking thing, which is quite nice actually. And when I was in the US, I had a lot of guys that I'd met while helping out at Chambers Bay. So I met up with a couple of guys. I got a full tour of Bandon Dunes with Superintendent Jeff Wilson. Phenomenal guy, one of the most lovely guys you'll meet out there. And so me and my wife stayed with him for a night, and then we got a full tour of the whole place, including the Billy Ranch, which this is all it getting all redone. So we saw it in its original state with, they were using like 1950s fire engines to basically feed the irrigation system. If they wanted to water a green, they'd bring the fire engine to the side of the green, hook that up to the irrigation hose point, and that would pump and run the water for the irrigation heads.
It's cool, isn't it?
So sorry, making it really long-winded with this.
No, it's fascinating.
So came back, got myself a job at Swinley Forest, just as a sort of stopgap. That was cool. That was an amazing golf course. It was absolutely stunning. I mean, as Heathlands go, it's incredible. The membership there are amazing. It's kind of like the epitome of what golf used to be, I think.
Harry Colt's the Spad course.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, I loved it there because it kind of reminded me of Hankley when I was younger, in the sense of golf there was all about the social side of it. It wasn't about constant competitions. The guys out there, you'd see four balls going out there with more dogs in the group than there was people, sort of thing, and they were out there just to go out and play golf with their friends. And there were fantastic people out there always talking to us, and that was a really great experience. At that point, COVID had hit. We'd got furloughed, and a close friend of mine, Lee Powell, sort of reached out to me and sort of said, I'm looking for a deputy. It's yours if you want it, sort of thing. And that was at Windlesham Golf Club, which was a stone's throw from Swinley. So I went over there, and that was a complete change of pace for me. Used to Heathland courses and such, and went to a very new Parkland course.
Yeah.
And it was great. Lee's great. He's a phenomenal greenkeeper. His knowledge is unbelievable. Great passion, and we got on fantastically as friends. And then sort of did a year there, and he knew that I wasn't planning on staying there long term because I'd moved down further south, so it was a longer commute.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of 2021, Greg was looking for a deputy. and that was about 15 minutes from where I was living. So it was links, closer to home. Tom Simpson, an incredible golf course and a renowned course manager. And it was a case of a no-brainer to throw my CV in. So it was straight to Greig saying I was interested in the job, and it was constant course walks before the interviews and that. I loved going out there and seeing him doing overseeding on the fairways before dark while I was out there wandering around taking notes of the place. And yeah, just over a year's gone by. And
yeah, you were almost a permanent fixture before you'd even.
yeah.
I've got one question. Well, I've got 100 questions, but there's one question I really want to ask. Were you at Hankley when they filmed Skyfall?
Yes, I was.
So can I tell my story?
Go on.
Yeah.
So Gareth invited me down for a game at Hankley, and we played, and I could hear helicopters going over the whole time. And you were playing as well, weren't you?
Was it playing or walking? I think I can't remember.
You were with us, definitely.
Yeah.
And I remember him. I said, "What's all the helicopter noise?" Because there was Wessex going over and all sorts. And he's like, "Oh, they're filming Skyfall up on the
ridge, yeah,
on the ridge, and go right up through the woods." And then
Yeah.
he says, "Well, take you up later if you want, and we'll show you it." So we had lunch after the golf, and then we jumped in the dad's Land Rover, and we drove up through, and it was the most amazing thing I've ever seen, because you stood up on this cliff, this ridge, go down low onto the heath, and there was the road. The Aston Martin was sitting outside this big castle, and your dad was like, "Well, it's just paper mache, the castle.
Yeah.
It's a castle that at the very end of the sea,
The one they blow up.
yeah.
I filmed.
And I was like, this can't be happening. They were filming it. They were filming like the helicopter coming in and stuff. And I stood up there and with John on the deck for about a couple of hours. We probably spent up there. But your dad had said him last night.
Yeah.
You all went up and watched them blow it up.
Yeah, so they couldn't confirm when it was happening. He said if you happen to be out for a walk at about 2:30 in the morning, you might see something.
But jeez.
But because they filmed that. They actually filmed The World's Not Enough as well. So if you were to go back to The World's Not Enough, and there's a scene where they cut Bond's car in half with the circular saws from a helicopter, that was also filmed at that same spot.
Wow.
But I remember they were doing the building up there, and of course every break time we get a chance we go up there and look at it, and a few of us clocked the fact that the film crew's vehicles were the same as our vehicles, and we have walkie-talkies as well. We're going to see if we can just sort of blag it. So there's a couple of times that we just sort of coasted through the film set just to sort of see, and thankfully didn't get caught with it. And it was...
You went in a Kawasaki mulling out in an Aston D.
Yeah, exactly, pretty much, yeah. But I mean, I still remember my dad telling me when he found out about it, because I think we'd had either vandalism or motorbikes on the course before. And he was out on the course doing his rounds, and there's this Toyota Land Cruiser coming across the common, and he's sort of thinking, "Oi, who's that? Shouldn't be out here." So he got talking to the guy, and the guy himself seemed sound enough. He said, "Look, if you see any kids on motorbikes or whatever, let us know, and I'm trying to figure out who's out here," sort of thing. And the guy says, yeah, no problem, here's my card. So my dad gets his card, and he's sort of looking and going, "Who the hell's this guy?" And it's a matte black business card with 007 in gold embossed. He's like, "Who is this guy with a 007 business card?" And he looked at it, like, it was the location scout for Skyfall. So of course it was a case of, "Oh, okay, so what's going on here?" And he's like, "Oh, I can't sort of say, but this and that." And it's a case of, and that's how it started. That's how he found out about it. And if you'd seen the DZ or the dropping zone where it was filmed before, it's just heath, totally flat, nothing down there but heathland. And when they built it, they'd built the church, the graveyard, the mansion, the DB5. There was even trees down there that, I've lived there most of my life. I was questioning whether, I was like, I'm sure there wasn't oak trees down there. And you go down there and they've built these oak trees into the ground coming out of them that look like
they've built them. They're not real.
Yeah, they weren't real. Yeah, they were almost like clad sort of fake trees sort of things.
And then you watch the film, and at the end they've put all the Scottish mountains in behind it, when it's sunny.
Yeah, it's all like the drivers were going.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And actually, it was down in the.
It was down the heath of Hankley.
It's amazing, because when I first moved to Sandwich, me and Jen, Chris Bernard, Nika went to watch the film in the wee cute Sandwich cinema. And I always remember at the end, "Look, you can see me up on the hill." So,
We waving.
never let a truth get in the way of a good story. Yeah, that's fascinating.
Oh,
Really cool.
yeah, it was cool.
Excellent. What a great career. And I've actually been in a lot more places than.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a peppered CV, isn't it? When you put that in front of you.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, a lot of experiences, and met an incredible amount of really cool people, both in the US and over here. And that's one of the things I love about it, is that networking, making friends in it, you know.
It's great.
Like the group we're in, we're all sharing ideas, and it's all passion driven. That's the best thing about it.
Well, you're a very passionate person, and moving on from one passionate person to the only person coming out of Kirkcaldy that would eat a sandwich one knife and fork.
I only did it once.
Let's tell us, again, another amazing career.
Yes, there's definitely some similarities to Graeme's, to be honest with you. My dad was a greenkeeper. My grandfather was actually a greenkeeper as well for a time, so he was actually a gardener, sort of commercial gardener. But for some years, he looked after Hayling Golf Club, and my gran was the steward in the clubhouse. So, yeah, links to golf and greenkeeping go back quite a long way, to be honest with you. As I spent a lot of time on golf courses with my dad as a grown up, sort of preschool, sitting on his knee, going around cutting greens, and then just wandering about the golf course, smashing balls all over the place, and yeah, it was good. So I think I was probably destined to end up doing something within the greenkeeping industry. It was definitely on the cards. I think there was times when I was younger that I was sort of actively looking to do other things. I was quite interested in architecture, funnily enough, which is linked into my career now as well. Left school before I should have done, to be honest with you. I was supposed to go back, but I'd bailed. Was offered a job with a neighbour who worked on bowling greens and sports pitches, sort of maintenance contracts. So that was my sort of first full-time job in the industry. Obviously, prior to that, I'd spent loads of time wherever my father was at the time, which was all over Europe, Africa. I never actually made it to Africa. We did get all our immunisations at one point to travel across, and then people started shooting each other, and my dad decided it wasn't a good idea for us to come. Yeah.
That's quite similar to Kirkcaldy then. You'd if there's any Kirkcaldy listeners, they come from Dumfries.
Yeah.
Just a joke.
Yeah. Yeah. So I spent my childhood floating about between wherever he was working. Every school holiday, I'd get put on a plane, sent across, and I'd be out working on the golf course doing various things. Getting in trouble for making mistakes at 11 and 12-year-old. I was struggling to meet my dad's standards. He was a harsh boss. Definitely. But I gained a lot from that, and obviously it ended up being the career path that I chose after other things were sort of put on the table. So that early experience obviously shaped that, and yeah, I've got no regrets now. After working with my neighbour, who was a contractor, he decided to get out of the industry, and he said, I think you should go to college. And I wasn't particularly keen on school, so I wasn't overly keen to go to college either, to be honest with you. I was quite happy earning some money. But went to Elmwood and did my NC for a year. And from that came an opportunity to go to Germany, to a place called Bad Orb, so Golf Club Bad Orb, sort of central Germany near Frankfurt, which at the time I was 17, so it was kind of a big step just to jump on a plane and disappear to Germany. And yeah, so I mean, from getting the email, which was through the college, to me being in Germany was 4 days. So it was like, yeah, I mean,
that's a lot for a 17-year-old.
Yeah. I think the temptation of them offering quite a bit more money than I could earn in Scotland was the deal breaker there.
And the German, yeah,
a huge change. And but when you're that age, I suppose you don't see it as a risk. You just do, don't you?
you're not scared of it, really.
No. I certainly worry a lot more about things now than I did then. But that was a great experience. Met a few guys who I'm still in contact with just now, that have moved on to other areas, the industry and things. Spent sort of 2 years there. One of the interesting things when I went across is they were working on a 9-hole construction, which never happened while I was there. You know, I mean, it was half done, and then the owner decided that he would sell the course, and the members bought it, and it all kind of stalled. After 2 years, another opportunity came up just a bit further north near Hanover, working on it was actually an Alma Palmer designed. It was called Retmar Links. It was built on the most horrible soil you've ever come across in your life. It looked a bit like a links, but it was horrendous. It is the worst soil that I've ever worked on. And I'm sure there's a couple of guys that worked there with us that will be listening to this, and they will confirm that fact. There was a reason no one would work there in the winter, because you could not get on it. It was just a bog. But yeah, learned a lot from that. Certainly learned how to enjoy myself when you're working with a squad of 10 guys from England, Ireland, Scotland. There was a sort of common theme to the social side of things. It was a great team atmosphere, though. It was fantastic. So again, it was total in Germany for 3 years.
How much of the language did you pick up?
Quite a lot, to be honest with you. I did pretty well. I think the first year I was there, in Bad Orb, there was there was 3 Irish guys there, and at times an English lad. So we spoke a lot amongst ourselves. They all left after the first season with the changes in the golf club and things, and I went back, and it was a completely German squad. And my boss, who was the former deputy, was promoted. He could speak decent English. It was fine, but I just ended up communicating in German all the time. Yeah, and I'm sure it was far from perfect. I remember my next boss telling me, who was a German woman, that I sounded like a farmer. So I'd obviously picked up their colloquialisms in German, which was a bit interesting to hear. But yeah, no, just got stuck in. And when I did move further north to Hanover, obviously working in a team full of people that were speaking English constantly, I kind of spoke the most German, which was helpful in some regards when we were out, because I could communicate and get us in places where if they opened their mouths, we weren't allowed. There was quite a big barracks close by, so there tended to be a few issues sometimes with but it was good fun. And I learned a lot. And these places, well, especially Retmar, it was quite high end. So expectations were huge, despite the fact that it was built on a bog. So that was great. Learned a lot. Decided to sort of move on. In the interim, for the same owners, actually ended up in Mallorca, doing a bit of remodelling work. They were tweaking a few holes around to create a bigger driving range and things. So did that. That was only sort of 3-4 month project. Again, gained a lot from that. Came back to the UK, was looking for the next thing. At that point, my parents were living in Holland. Went across there, just started to help my father out for a bit. It was good working for him in the short term, and I think looking back, it would have been nicer to spend more time actually working for him after I had gained a bit of experience. But that just wasn't possible at the time. That was at Daventer, the Solonsa Golf Club. So it's half Heath Fund, and the 6 holes across the road were a newer development. It's matured a bit now. I've seen photos recently, but it was a field. But the older part of the golf course was actually quite interesting.
One of my recurring themes of everywhere, how a 12-hole or 9-hole course gets 6 or 9 holes added on the neighbouring fields, and you just think, why can't golf be? Why does golf have to be 18 everywhere?
Yeah, no, true. Yes. From that and through the connections at the club my father was at, I got a position at Almeerderhout, which is kind of central Netherlands. Again, sort of sand-based. Heathland side, it was heavily wooded, as a lot of places have become. Spent 6 months there. That was great. I gained some more experience, and then got in contact with a Scottish lad that I'd worked with previously in Germany, who was a supervisor at Almeerderhout, which is just sort of north of Amsterdam. Ended up across there for another 3 years. It was, gained a lot from that as well. Had sort of areas of responsibility within the team. Had a bit more experience than some people, a bit more career-minded. I decided after sort of three years that I would like to go back to Scotland. You start to miss friends and family and look for opportunities. Contacted lots of golf courses, put my CV in, see what was available. Ended up getting a response from St Andrews, who had just embarked on the castle project, and thought, yep, that is exactly what I want to do. Go to a proper construction project and learn how to do it properly. So yeah, I got a phone call from Gordon Moyer one morning. Couldn't understand a word he was saying to me, to be honest with you. Sorry, Gordon, if you're listening. But yeah, that was the start of sort of a great period in my career. I was there for just over 9 years from the start. Well, there was 5 holes completed when I started. The other side of the other half of the project was still a field, doing a bit of topsoil stripping. So I saw a lot of the project from the start, which was great.
So I'm really interested in this. So come on. So how did they actually build that place then? Was sand brought in, or was it more drainage and shaping?
No, the sand that was imported was solely for greens, tees, and surrounds.
So the fairways are
The fairways are on the native soil, which is not great.
There. And talk to me about the shaping, because that's one of the things that the chop the drop kind of things have then all got decapitated.
Spill-offs, as they became named somehow. I don't know actually who came up with it, but that's what they were called. Yeah, the spill-offs. And sometimes likened to Trump's hair. I don't know where that sort of design concept came from. Somewhere probably between Davy Kidd and Paul Kimber, I would think. And it was difficult to manage at times, being on the native soil and looking at what we could feasibly irrigate. Because I think in general the project was done on there was no everlasting pot of money. It was done very much on an economy. When you look at some of the projects that have gone on since on a similar scale.
Peso farm.
Yes, yeah. It was an arable farm. There was. So the topsoil was rich. We found that when we were respreading it in areas, and we utilised topsoil in some smaller areas that were irrigated, and then outside of that, at depth we found some really, really fine sands, which just hold moisture. And in the end, we found out they do hold moisture, and it just seeps out, and it's rather messy. So the lessons learned from that as well. What was possible. They were done for good reason at the time, and the theories were sound. In the long term, things pan out differently.
And if it's the pine side, it's interesting, but because it was Grant the other day talking about G West when started the shaping there, and then the castle course open, and the castle course's greens got slightly softened, didn't they? At one point?
Yeah, we did a bit of work. It was. Most of the work was on the surrounds rather than the putting surfaces themselves. There were a couple of areas that we sort of had to soften, gain more pins and things. But a lot of the changes were made were outside the greens. Some immediately surrounding the greens. Lots of changes in fairways just to sort of take unfair hazards out the middle of landing areas and things. It was spectacular visually. But to play, once we opened and people started playing, you could see that things were needed tweaked.
Very tough golf course, especially the winds and being so high up on the top of that cliff.
It's one of the most played, isn't it? I'm pretty sure. Obviously, the old course gets far and away the most played, but even though the castle course isn't open all year, isn't it one of the second, third most played?
Yeah, I can't remember. It's a long time since I've been there now, but yeah, it was while we were open. Yeah, it was heavily played. It was busy. And a lot of some people would come off, as we all know, and yeah, they slated it. And some people said it was a fun golf experience, and they enjoyed it.
No, it's a stunning golf course.
Yeah, it's not
kept very, very well.
Yes, yeah. That was always the case. The presentation wise was just.
Was Alan Patterson that was there when you?
Yes, so Alan was in charge when I arrived, and pretty much the whole time I was there. He left just very shortly before I moved on to my next position with yourself. He undoubtedly is the best manager Bledge, as it has been. Undoubtedly, he'll probably agree with me.
I do, definitely do. Well, I have a theory that if ever I'm going to do something or say something, I always say, what would Alan do? Because he's the most level-headed guy, and I bet he doesn't make mistakes.
I'm sure they've disagreed, but Alan was a fantastic guy to work for, and it has a huge impact on my career. I think if I hadn't spent the time that I did with Alan, and he'd had the conversations that he had with me at times, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in now. Most definitely not. And in regards to the castle course as well, and the changes and things, it was always his opinion, and I agree with him as well, that it was easier to go extreme in the beginning and then make some tweaks and soften things rather than go bland and try and change it, because the scope of the works then becomes huge, whereas taking out, reshaping small areas and changing shapes and things is relatively easy and cheap to do. So that was he's genuinely great guy to work for, and he doesn't, you don't hear much about him on social media and things. He keeps himself to himself. Many people know him, obviously, but he certainly doesn't shout about it. It was a great job and a huge impact on my career, and a direct link to where I ended up at Royal St Portsmouth Pledge.
So that's down to the from St Andrews.
Yeah. Well, the last period at St Andrews, I'd kind of taken my eye off the ball career-wise, I think, because St Andrews is a great environment to work in. You're well looked after, great equipment, working on a fantastic golf course for a great boss and a good team. And I think, I got distracted a bit from my career goals. Alan had a word with me and I refocused, and I got the supervisor's role in the castle. I did that for about 9 months before moving it down to Deal. So I was fully focused on moving forward. When was it? 2015, so 33. Yeah, 33 when I moved to Deal.
Intent that I really started off my career as course manager, because I obviously just been promoted from deputy to course manager, and I wanted the strongest deputy possible because I knew that it would be tough starting off, especially at a club as elite as that, on my own as my first job, and I wanted to get the very, very best person for the job. And I remember speaking to Alan Patterson, and he said that we could have the right man for it. So it went out to interviewed some really good guys, but Greg just seemed to fit the bill. He ticked every box, and most importantly, he's got the best music taste of everyone that applied. And quite often, me and Greg can become the last people up. So your house, listen to music.
Yeah, fifth. I think everyone always asks, how long did you know Bledge before you got the job? This is to start, and it's like, no, never
met, no, not at all.
The only person in greenkeeping not to meet Bledge.
And I think that was probably a good thing.
Yeah.
But Greg was an absolute whirlwind when he came in, and practically top of his game. He'd have a wide range of knowledge between agronomy, irrigation specialist, really. You're very, very good at that. Unbelievable on a digger. Great with the team. So, I mean, he was very, very popular at the club amongst the secretary and the members, and you were there for 2 years?
Yeah, 2 years pretty much to the day.
But I was always, and I still kind of am like this now, where the management roles in the team, whether it be the deputy or first assistant, I love to keep them on a revolving door for their sake. So you come in, you get your experience as first assistant, and then you move up to deputy. You come in, get experience as deputy, you move up to course manager, and along the way you trained up, do things at FTMI, which you did, and Harrogate, a lot of other courses, and then you move up to course manager. And I just think it's such an amazing opportunity for these golf clubs to be doing that, and the danger of getting someone in that's going to clog that role up and just sitting that until retirement, and no one else ever gets a chance. And it's a shame in this industry that kind of happens at times, whether it's naturally or what. But it's at Deal, and still at Deal just now, it's the same way. It's working well that way.
Yeah, no, I think it's important. I mean, I've worked in places where you have got people in the senior roles that are, no disrespect to them, at all, but are going to sit in that position until they're ready to retire. And the guy, I mean, it's probably one of the main reasons why I moved to St Andrews, because there wasn't a clear path to move.
It's a dead man's shoes scene, isn't it?
Yeah. And I didn't, obviously, I was thinking about my career path at the time. There was, you could have sat there. And I mean, it was years until, it's only recently that positions have become available to take the next step. And I would have loved to do it within that organisation, because as I said, it's huge benefits to working there.
Well, there was a job that came up before. I don't know if we'll name the place or not, but we kind of pushed you to go in for it. I said, it's the right thing to do, let's go for it. But I knew that it wasn't perfect for you, and I knew that it was kind of, I think I stepped in at the last minute and said, look, you can't take this job. I don't think it's right, because it's an amazing golf course, but it was the location and your family situation, and someone inside me was like, no, I need to just say, Greg, look, I don't think this. And you didn't have your doubts as well at that point.
I think it was because the package they were offering was decent, you know what I mean? But that wasn't it. I didn't want to go somewhere where the resources weren't available to push it on and make it what I'd want it to be. And just because of where they were, location-wise, the resources just weren't going to be there to do what I wanted to do, and essentially what they would like to do as well. So yeah, we keep.
I also know what you were like with work, and that this place was quite remote.
Yeah.
And the fact that you'd be working all the time, and it would maybe could play a part in your family life, which is important to you. And it was, I'm so glad that you didn't.
Yeah, I'm glad now. But it was a huge positive for me at the time, because it's the first course manager's role that I'd actually applied for, and got offered the position was fantastic. You know, I mean, it was a huge confidence boost as well.
And it got you ready for the main one.
Yeah. It was good experience, and it was only a year. Well, it was less than a year later that Hayling came up. Funnily enough, it was some Hayling members that approached me on the 9th deal when I was building a bunker, and they were saying they were looking for a course manager and stuff. And I was like, okay. No, not at all. So I had the conversation and almost just forgot about it. You know, it was just a bit of a conversation with some visitors on the course, and it was Bledge's fault again. He looked up the advert on the bigger site, and then he says, "Have you actually seen this place?" I had a look, and I was like, "Wow." And the application just went in straight away.
When I went there, it was the week after the Open in Brosa Georges. Harriet was back in the northwest. We went for a touring round, but she wanted to go and see her folks, and I had a few days between the Open and actually another stag do in London. I played Course Dragon to the next one, and I just fell in the sea because it was beautiful down there. And I got to Hayling, played most of the way round, and the sun was just setting, and I thought I need to go and get my drone and fly it round. And because Tom Simpson is probably one of my favourite architects, and to have a links course, Tom Simpson, one of the most beautifully presented and managed rough areas of the course. Well, I thought all the gorse was kept down low, and the lichens and things were just so beautiful, and the colours, and I was just so struck by the beauty and the interest of the golf course. I was like, I need to make a little film about this place, because I didn't know anything about it before I went there. And then that's when I spent the next day just sat in the pub next to the bridge over Hayling Island, just put that little film together.
Well, the film can be found on YouTube. Yeah, under,
I think I called it The Ground Game.
So Lights from the Road, you have it whilst you're listening to this podcast, put it in the background and you can watch the video, because there's a couple of people that have said it's the favourite video. Was it Matt Plested from Stoneham that say, the Hayling video is the favourite video you've seen?
Yeah, it was a stunning bit of work. I was amazed when probably someone from the group, and then my members started sending me links to it and everything, and it was just fantastic. You
need to do more of these videos.
It was it was inspirational, to be honest with you, that someone had played the course and enjoyed it so much that they wanted to do something to share it with people. It was fantastic. Yeah, so took the job at Hayling, made quite a few visits down there during the interview process, and just almost immediately fell in love with the place and its potential. It's just stunning. I mean, I was visiting it at the time of year where it's in February, where it's not at its best from a visual aspect and turf aspect, but I definitely decided at that point that it's what I want to do. It was a difficult decision to leave Deal. Again, fantastic club to work for. Plenty, whatever we asked the club for resources-wise, generally they would agree to and find a way of funding it. And it was progressing at such a rate. It was just a great team to be involved in. Good bunch of lads. So it was a difficult decision to leave, but after visiting Hayling, it was definitely the way forward. I honestly didn't think I would get the job. I really didn't. You know what I mean? I knew there'd be lots of talented guys in for it. But interview process went well, especially the first interview, second interview. Bit nervous as you are with these things. Got a lot invested in it at that point. But it went well and it got offered the position.
And how many years have you been there for now?
5.5 years. When I was 6 years in June since
It's a good
I started. Yeah. It's gone in extremely fast.
Yeah.
Extremely fast.
Well, you've done a lot of bunker work. You've had some hellish droughts.
It was an absolute baptism of fire. I think 6 months in, I was borderline on the phone to Bledge to see if I could have my job. Went in halfway through the season, and there was lots of issues and things we needed to resolve. You get in there and you put a plan together to try and rectify some of them. A lot of them long-term things, you know. I mean, there's not many quick fixes. We got into the first winter and it was just extremely wet. A lot of this seeding work and renovation work that we'd done wasn't taken, and couldn't really figure out why. You know, you're in a new environment, it behaves differently as every golf course does. And things were just going backwards on the putting surfaces because it was just so wet. The moisture retention and problems is not something we deal with on the site as a whole. There's a bit of sand in the sort of higher areas in the dunes. You guys all know the course pretty well. And the flatter area of the course, sort of the opening and closing, it's just gravel. It's shingle. You know, you're straight onto the beach.
I mean, is it literally hole change or gravel? So when you're changing a hole?
Yeah. The greens were obviously constructed. So they were constructed at a sort of heavier soil, sort of sandy, silty mix. It's pretty horrible. You wouldn't want to build a putting surface out of it, not nowadays. But there was reasons back when they did it for moisture retention to try and keep turf alive.
Irrigation systems.
Yeah, exactly. So it worked for them then. And it was summer golf, or certainly not winter golf. But as we all know, it's all year round now. It never ever stops. So that was kind of the biggest problem. The greens were wet, and the turf just did not like it. I mean, we're trying to encourage a fescue sward, and sitting in water all winter in traffic, it just doesn't like it. It just gives up. So 6 months in, I was questioning whether I'd made the right decision. And then we went into 2018, and everyone's bored of me talking about this, but we went into that drought, and essentially we don't have enough water. We still don't have enough water, which we're working on, which we may cover. Essentially lost every blade of grass outside the greens, tees and approaches. The whole lot just died. I learned a huge amount about how we use the water resources we have during that period. Essentially, when you use too much water to start with, trying to keep things alive, and then thinking when it gets to the point where we're just a desert, that there's no need to put water on because it's completely dormant, and it's just not the case. I mean, even when you think ET rates are sort of up at 6-7 mil, you think putting on 3 mil of water makes no difference. It's gone in a couple of hours, but it does. It does actually make a huge difference.
Yeah, I found that as well.
Yeah,
definitely
huge. So learned a lot from that. And there were positives that eventually came out of the turf loss that we saw. The fairways weren't great aesthetically. There was lots of poorer, coarser grasses in there, native species that had come in, lots of sheep's fescue, which was really hard to manage. It was all gone, so it was almost a blank canvas. So we started some renovation works because we had a dead layer of a lot of it was fescue. and it was basically like a cork mat, you know what I mean? It was just, as we know, the sort of lignin content of fescue is a lot higher than some other species. So we had to break through that, and like the Vrido, for example, just wouldn't cut through most of it. Yeah, so it's like, how do we get seed into the ground? So we were scarifying and verticutting, trying to break it up, and we ended up just pot seeding fairways, sort of Procore cut-off tines, and which is a ludicrously slow way.
It's a long process.
But it's the only way we could get seed in the ground. So we got success on the areas we did like that, and where we could get the Vrido in, it was a bit of a mixed bag. Really, really struggled to get sort of germination and establishment on the fescue. And we went into the next season looking pretty terrible. We were looking at sort of 60-70% just weed coverage in some areas. It was pretty messy. I remember Alistair Beggs, who was working with us at the time, came down and walked onto the 18th fairway, and he looked a bit shocked, to be honest with you. And he just kind of went, wow. And I knew we were in a bit of trouble with regards to what we could provide the membership with. And we needed to think outside the box and try and generate grass cover and get the golf course back to its best. So probably, there were people that would quite openly say that there's no place for ryegrass on a course like ours. It should be a fescue surface and that's it. And partly because of the position we were in, and my mindset is not like that in the slightest. I think first priority has to be to provide a course to your membership.
100%.
And the position we were in, we weren't going to be anywhere near where we should to be.
If you were to ask 100 members, what kind of grass is that? How many would be able to answer? 5, 6?
Yeah.
You know,
No.
I've always said this, we've talked to this, the cows come home, ryegrass is better than no grass. We did it, we put in bits and pieces, at Deal where we were struggling to get coverage, and then we got grass, and golfers were loving it because it suffers to play off, wipe off weeds.
Yeah.
If you don't have the water to grow in and maintain fescue and grow it stronger, then you can't have it. And ryegrass, I mean, you've seen ryegrass die off in the winter and in the summer where you've had no irrigation whatsoever, and then in the next year the lines come back again.
It's great as an ideology, but you have to look at the situation you are dealing with. Yeah, most definitely. So we started using some ryegrass initially just on the 18th fairway. Got great results from it, and then the next year made the decision that we would go sort of full scale, sort of fairways, semi-rough pathways, the whole lot, anywhere where we had water.
And was that a Bar Olympic, was it?
Yes, a Bar Olympic. The blinds have changed a bit, so it was always the ultrafine mix. So Bar Olympic, Bar Signal. I think the Aventus was in there at times as well. And it's been a huge success. The compliments that we've had from members, visitors, and people within the industry with huge experience, the compliments we've had have been fantastic.
The conception of a lot of people is that sustainability is it's all about tradition. It's about the original grasses. Lynx was always fescue and your other fine grasses, but the reality is nowadays sustainability is it's what you can produce with what you have available. We don't have the water or the profile for fescue, but we need to produce a surface. So, we've said before we both love to have fescue across the whole course, but realistically, we can't do that with what resources we have available. So the most sustainable thing for us is to use what we have available, which is the
I think long-term plan would always be to encourage some fescue out of the swamp, just to get the density that we ideally would like. But trying to establish fescue on a trafficked bare ground surface is just a major challenge. So the ryegrass element is almost to sort of surround it and protect it.
I always said it was like the big brother.
Yeah.
I actually got to a point now, when we left Deal, I wasn't needing to sow more ryegrass into the paths. We were sowing in fescue to fill in the gaps. Whereas it was the other way about, just off it.
But if you don't have the natural conditions there to sustain fescue, is that something that you can, if you want to get to a point, maybe one day you do need to have the water sorted and you do need to have the the right ground conditions that will sustain it. Otherwise, you're just spending year on year, spending thousands of pounds on more fescue seed that's going to die 18 months later.
Yeah, so it's the biggest problem. I mean, the soil profiles are a challenge. We can't really do too much about it.
Yeah.
We don't have the sort of the dunes or sand resources that many other link sites have got, and they're just not there. And obviously, importing these materials now is just it's not. It would be financially not viable in the slightest, and it's just not the right thing to do. We can't do too much about that. We need to improve our sort of water resource. We just don't have enough water.
Yeah.
To keep stuff alive. If we keep carrying solids, that will be very hard. So we're currently working on that with a hydrogeologist and just before Christmas there, waiting on his first report. And we'll look at how we can soft load water on site, so that we can prevent damage. We've seen again last year. We lost 50% coverage again just as we ran out of water.
But 50's better than whenever we can do just 100 if it was just fescue wood. Essentially,
I mean, the conditions were different, and you never know. It's still fescue there, and it survived the drought last year. But certainly, the ryegrass element does bounce back.
You wouldn't give your members out coverage by June, as opposed to having weeds all the way through August.
Yeah. And it's this, so this is, again, I'm very much on the outside. Is it right to say that ryegrass that you're talking about isn't ryegrass that Jim Arthur was talking about? Like, it's changed so much with the advances in the research and the science and everything that's happened, so that you're not comparing apples with apples. It's a product that, as you say, Bledge, is very hard to recognise the difference between.
Do you mean sown ultra-fine ryegrass actually to walk off the surrounds? And with Alistair Beggs down his hands and knees trying to spot what's what at some point, because there can be a certain pointed stage where it's very, very similar. Yes, it might morph into something a lot bit closer and tighter on, but you're cutting 7 mil. People would never ever notice. And it's time to get away from the snobbery of ryegrass and having fine grasses only, because it's just not possible a lot of the time. It's not sustainable. But you look, these ryegrasses, I mean, quite good to get Dr. Dave from Barnard on at some point and talk about them, because they're genetically modifying and crossbreeding them so much now that they're going to actually be able to sow them the greens at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, rye is such a disease-tolerant grass. I think brown spot's probably the thing, the main...
We do get a bit of red thread at times, because we're running the whole site quite lean from a nutrition perspective. So we do get a bit of red thread. It's probably more prominent on the rye than it is anything else that we've got.
There's got like it's not as much as that red fusarium is not
Fusarium
or anthrax was it take all part shit. A lot of these diseases, and even fusarium gets going, like you don't know when it's going to stay.
Yeah.
Space for whatever. But I've never seen any disease in ryegrass.
And you're going to need more fungicide, more chemicals and things to manage those. So again, from a sustainability point of view, if you've got to manage those things a bit more aggressively, then is that really as sustainable as having something that can survive in the conditions? There's a
point where they're going to have better disease tolerance. They've already got the wear tolerance, and they're going to be like handle close more as well. So we're going to be fantastic move forward to it.
And for us specifically, the drought tolerance is key. But they've invested a huge amount of time and money in the research and development of the ryegrasses that we're buying there. And all the breeders have. And they're just they're a different plant.
That would be interesting, because is paspalum the you can water that with? That doesn't have to be with more like grey water.
Like seashore paspalum, I think, is the one that can handle the salinity of like the less sort of pure sort of groundwater sort of thing. Yeah.
Because in the fullness of time, like logically, if you can, if you've got a problem with water as a thing there, I don't know, but if that's something that can a trait and a characteristic that potentially could be brought into that kind of thing.
The breeding and the genetics.
Yeah.
Well, the crossbreeding, especially
that's that kind of you guys
Yeah, I mean, one thing I was at a talk yesterday with Freddie Elberton from NC State, and we were talking exactly about that, about the climate and such, and he was talking about, the talk was mainly about weed infestation, but we went to a big section about climate, and they were sort of showing on a map over the last sort of 10, 50 years, the movement of your warm season diseases and grasses that are present, and it's dramatically moving north over there, and it's the same thing happening in Europe. So if I,
new diseases and shit.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the thing is, like with you saying with like the paspalums and stuff. I mean, I'm not saying the next year, 5 years, whether we'd see something like Seashore paspalum on Hayling, but if anywhere in the UK was going to have it, we're at the southernmost point where.
But I meant if those characteristics have been bred into paspalum, maybe they could be bred into an ultrafine rye or something like that in the future.
Total just we can go back down short 4.
Yeah,
that would be usually Dr. David Van Dyke's stand.
There we go. Let's go on that.
Other seed versions are available.
Yeah. I'm sure they are doing it. I mean, it's a long process bringing a cultivar to market. It's not done overnight. So yeah, I'm sure they're looking at all aspects of that.
They make huge grounds. I mean, it takes 10 years to put a new seed out.
Yeah,
that's how long. So when people saying, "Oh, I would never put ride nass in because I'll just turn into a woody monster that's going to have really fat leaves," so they've been growing these seeds for these grasses for 10 years before we even get to see them. So they're quite far on in their life cycle by then. So we pretty much know all we know about them. But I mean, look, they're changing the colour of them. I mean, the big fear about ryegrass was always the fact that it's really dark, but they've modified it so then it's the same colour as the Fauski now. Yeah, I'm a big fan, and I think it was ballsy what you did. Definitely doing that, but I will say you're doing it for the interest in the golfer. Let's get folk playing golf. Let's not be having egos and say, "Oh, all I do is just go Fauski," and then by that you are actually stripping the golfer of their right to play golf and pay all that money to play golf.
As I was kind of backed into a corner because of the position we found ourselves in, and I had to many phone calls to Bledge going, "I'm not sure about this. I don't know if I should pull the trigger on doing this to Hayling. What if I ruin the place? You know what I mean?"
It was always like that.
Yeah, you can always kill it again.
There's a chemical called ways over. That point creates put in a boom sprayer.
But yeah, absolutely no regrets from it whatsoever. It was 100% the right thing to do, and I'm sure my membership would agree.
So I'm interested in the profile of the site because you know, if most people gave a definition of links golf, they'd say it's on sandy ground. It's the sandy ground that links the agricultural land to the sea. You know, that's like the old textbook definition, of which doesn't, 85% of links courses can fall into that definition, but 15% of them don't. You know, you've got the likes of Spey Bay up between Inverness and Aberdeen, and that's on proper gravel, like big gravel things. But it's linked land, it's free draining, and it's wavy, and it's undulating and everything else. So no one could convince me that isn't a links course, but it ain't on sand. And yours must be similar.
I was told from the very start in the interview process about the soil profiles and how much gravel there was. Yeah, I didn't fully appreciate what that meant until I got on site and started work and started construction projects. I mean, there are areas, as Graeme found out when he started with us, that you can't cut turf off because you are in the gravel.
Wow.
It's literally, 20, 25 mil of soil on top of gravel. It is ridiculous, to be honest with you.
How does it work in bunkers? Like, do you have to line the bunkers?
Yes.
Or
So we've constructed quite a lot of the bunkers now since I started, and yeah, we line them. Nothing expensive. It's basically a woven fabric, to a tear-on product, just to create a separation layer between what is usually gravel, and the bunker sand, which we also import. We're not allowed to line sand out for bunkers on site. It's one of the restrictions of it being a triple SI. Yeah, and they just won't give us permission to do it. And it would be a relatively small amount in the grand scheme of things. 300 ton would do our bunkers to refill them all. But we've asked the question to Natural England, and it's just...
I'll sell you some.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, and it's a high-end triple SI side when you look in the roughs. I mean, am I right to say you're not allowed trolleys in the roughs?
So we request that players keep the trolleys out of the rough. It's just such a fragile environment, especially in the summer.
Mosses and lichen.
Yeah, mosses, lichen.
Because I've not seen... I'm trying to think of anywhere that really has the
degree of Skibo Castle has a lot of lichens in their rough, but there's not many places that immediately spring to mind where you have such an array of colours and different mosses and lichens. It looks utterly stunning.
Yeah. We've a huge variety of environments on site. As I said, down there towards the clubhouse and start and end of the course, it is there's no soil on top of the gravel, so it's quite diverse with wildflowers. And then you move on to there's a central sort of spine, which is a lot of heather and lichen, sort of heath. A lot of it, unfortunately, that does receive traffic from golf, and it is very fragile, grown on nothing. So it never reaches its full potential. And then we've got areas where there's no golf traffic at all, and it is honestly spectacular. Anytime you have an ecologist down, they're like, wow,
They lose their minds there.
we just don't see this. And I think it's important because the only reason it is still there, despite what I just said about golf traffic, the only reason these areas are there and they're being maintained is because the golf course is there.
Yes.
There is no doubt in my mind that if the golf course wasn't there, the whole place would be gorse
Yes.
and trees.
Because you manage the gorse a bit more aggressively than some places, it seems, which to me is perfect. Like, gorse just comes tall and leggy and grows. And how quickly does gorse grow? Is it about 4% a year or something, they reckon?
I honestly don't know the percentage, but based on, it goes really on the weather patterns.
Yeah.
That last summer, it was a wet summer for us. We had a lot of rainfall, and the growth on the gorse was just staggering.
Yeah.
When areas which we had cleared just repopulated, they were like,
You literally cut gorse down to ankle to stumps. Stubs coming out of the ground, and then it will just start coming again.
And when it is that, though, it seems like it's almost a bit more like heather, because it's a bit softer, and it's rather than when it gets tall and woody and leggy and aggressive.
Every year, keep the hedge cutting it until it gets up to about hip height.
Yeah.
And that's
yeah. I mean, we've got the areas are so vast, and we've got a plan in place, and it is evolving. So on at the far end of the course in the dunes where it's sandier, we almost remove it all, take it away. The flatter end of the course, where I personally would like to retain a bit of definition between the holes, and just removing it all is just not feasible. We would just spend all our time doing that.
Yeah.
And then 3 years later, you're at it again. It's very difficult to get rid of it without removing all the root material and the soil, which there's none of anyway.
Yeah.
So it's very challenging. So our management practices have evolved, and we were continually mechanising it. We just bought this year another big flail collector for the back of the tractor. So instead of doing chainsaw work, we bought a bigger tractor and the flail, and basically just drive through it, and that takes it down to stump height, a few inches. And if we want to remove it, we've also invested in an excavator and grab attachments and rakes. So we would take all the root material out where we want it gone, and then re-establish it as grassland if that's what we're doing. A lot of the time we just leave things to repopulate, rather than forcing them.
I think one of the great sayings that really frustrates me is, that place is brilliant because every hole is an amphitheatre. You can't see another hole but the one you're playing, and there are places where, of course, that is an asset, that's the character of the golf course, but if you're trying to contrive that and manufacture it out of gorse, the old adage, you can't play golf from a gorse bush, so a narrow fairways bordered by long grass makes for miserable golfers. Up at Hopeman, which again is just down the road from Spey Bay, got rid of so much gorse. We used to all bring a bag of golf balls when we came to play, and now we all bring our cameras, because look at that view over there, and it was stunning. But if you were just looking at a gorse bush, then, because they can be 6, 7, 8, 10 feet high and leggy as hell, and
pay for screaming security.
Yeah, but not there for the sake of being there.
I mean, it's every winter, it's the impact on golf comes up, and there's a lot of better golfers who've formed a mindset which is not the same as mine, and they don't like it. They just feel like we're making it easier, unnecessarily. But it's not something that I agree with. And my Greens chairman, I think he would get rid of every golf bush from the golf course.
Yeah.
He hates this stuff.
well, you're a great Tom Simpson golf course, and Tom Simpson wouldn't have liked course.
So it's a case of, I think it's always going to be a part of Hayling, and it's just not feasible to eradicate it. But yeah, managing it so that it's creating aesthetics without unnecessarily impeding the enjoyment of the game.
You live at site as well as on the 13th hole.
Yes.
How do you find that? Because that's quite it's quite an iconic part of the hole, really, isn't it? House.
I love living on site. There's huge positives, and to be honest, I was worried about it to start with. There isn't any drawbacks. I get to live somewhere that's just spectacular. Space for walked. Yes, legitimate mocked that. that was just an amazing place. I mean, I worked straight through. I didn't travel to work because I was there, and I had one other person in with me on a rotation, and that was spectacular. The amount of work we got done was incredible because there was still golf.
I think it was lucky during night time.
It was great, and the weather was good, and whatnot. I mean, it's a feasible long term. I love seeing people playing the course, and I love people coming and enjoying
And
it.
ship spotting as well.
Yes.
There's some massive ships going in there.
Post Flicklands.
Yeah, you're looking over the Solent there, aren't you?
Yeah, you will look out to the Isle of Wight.
So Sam's really into vessel finder.
Yeah, I can see Liverpool Bay from my window, so sometimes
He's got some binoculars and we look at it and see where the ships come from. It's what it's got in it. So you would have a field day here. But it's been fantastic having you on. And Hayling's going from strength to strength, and there's always something happening. You, Graham's, Greig, double guest.
No, that's a special episode. I think we've overrun a little bit, but that was brilliant.
Could be a swing and 2 balls.
Thank you, guys.
But cheers.